an American from Nevada who is currently in Venezuela. Jason was in the country, had been there for less than 24 hours when he narrowly escaped the deadly earthquakes. The beginning of what was supposed to be a 2-week vacation with his girlfriend. And I know Jason spent the day sightseeing on a mountaintop. She was taking a nap because they had just gotten into the country. So Jason's next in line to catch a cable car back to Caracas. The earthquake strike. The internet is gone. And he has to go on a 6-mile journey down a mountain in the dark. So, Jason, I mean, so just people understand, you had just gotten in the country. This was your first day. You decide to go on a hike. We understand these 2 earthquakes, one of which is the largest in a century, happened within 40 seconds of each other. Can you just tell me what that felt like? And at what point did you realize something was terribly wrong?
Yeah, so it was right at 6:05 p.m. I was waiting in line to go back down the mountain by using the cable car. And I was actually next up to board the cable car. I was recording myself going into the cable car, and all of a sudden, like the building started shaking and the floor started moving, and then mass panic. Like everyone that was in line inside the building, we were all running for the one exit. It just happened so fast. Yeah, the shaking lasted about, I mean, it felt like a long time. I think it was up to a minute. And we didn't know what was going on because, as you mentioned, the cell phone got cut out. I couldn't look up any information, couldn't call for help. So we were pretty much on our own after that.
What was it like when everyone, rushes for the door? I mean, that feeling of panic, because at that point you realize it all could come down. I mean, people are rushing for life and death, all to one exit.
Yeah, at that point, you just don't know what's going to happen. You can only hope for the best for you and everyone around you. So luckily, the building, nothing happened to the building. We did see like floors outside starting to crack, but luckily the building was intact.
It's terrifying to even imagine. So then you have a 6-mile hike to get back to your hotel. You're doing this amidst all of this, the fear and the panic. I understand you're the only person not from Venezuela doing this. People are clearing a path with machetes, I understand. So, what was that like in the dark?
Yeah, I mean, we were hoping that the cable cars would resume. So I waited 45 minutes, but then I could tell that something was not right. So yeah, I was one of the first to decide to start walking down because I knew the later we waited, the more people would get stuck and the darker it would get and the more difficult things would become. I mean, the first part wasn't too bad. The roads were good. And then a few hundred yards in, there were no more roads. It just got completely destroyed. Landslides from above, like just covered the roads and tons of fallen trees. You just couldn't get through it. And a lot of rubble. I even saw some houses that were completely destroyed along the way. So the only way to get through is by, these civilians. They came with machetes and chopped the trees up so that they created a tunnel for us to like literally walk through the trees. There were several sections like that along the way down.
I mean, it's just absolutely incredible. You get back to the city. At this point, I know you've got to be just absolutely terrified about your girlfriend who was in a hotel, right? That the building could have collapsed, that she could be dead, and you can't call. There's no internet. So how do you find each other? And what was it like when you're actually in Caracas seeing the devastation there?
Yeah, I mean, once I got down the mountain and I just saw like everyone out of their homes. People were sitting outside with their families and their pets. It's a real sense of community. Everyone was afraid to go back in. So as I was told, a lot of people, actually slept outside last night. And a lot of people were being very friendly. Someone offered me a ride on their motorbike from the first village that I came down to all the way to the city center. So it just saved me so much time. And I eventually got back right before 11 p.m. And I was really relieved when I got back to my hotel.
Right, right. And we're able to see your girlfriend and know that she is safe. Thank God
Yeah,
both of you are safe. And as I
exactly.
know, obviously there's so much tragedy around where you are, as you will be experiencing. Thank you so very much, Jason. I appreciate your taking the time and being willing to speak to me.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
My next guest is a resident of Caracas who rode out the earthquakes along with his family and pet dog. He also works with the aid group Project Hope in Venezuela and toured some of the hardest hit areas today. I spoke earlier today with Cesar Jimenez. Cesar, can you talk us through what it felt like when the earthquake hit?
Yeah. To give you an idea of the sheer force, I was actually at home with my family when it all started. The most shocking part was how the intensity just kept building and building. It lasts so long, about like 50 or 60 seconds. Just imagine trying to count to 50 while being violently shaking inside your house. Okay, so we could barely stay on our feet, and well, it was pretty shocked because we didn't have this kind of disaster since 1967 here in the capital in Caracas.
Did it feel like two separate earthquakes to you or one long one?
It happens very fast, so it was like building up intensity, and then it was like a little bit quiet, but then the intensity came back. But since we were on a building, of course, like the movement within the building just kept, even though the earthquake have like this little pause,
Right, the building
but
kept
it
moving.
was pretty intense, pretty hard, and really, yeah. The building kept moving, yeah.
And I understand you traveled to one of the hardest hit areas today. Can you talk about what you saw?
Yes, with our team, within the Project Hope Venezuela team, we went last night to the healthcare facilities that we support here in Caracas, specifically in Miranda and Distrito Capital. And this morning we went to La Guaira, and it's actually a heartbreaking scene right now. There are still hundreds of people trapped under the buildings, and local civil protection teams are out there working nonstop, literally doing everything humanly possible to pull out our survivors, kids, grandparents, pets right now. And there's a critical need for support from search and rescue teams, even though probably even train canine units to help us locate the people that are still buried before the time runs out.
Are there a lot of search and rescue teams or K9 units on the ground that you saw?
We have seen many, yeah. We have seen many from the local authorities and local civil protection, but the level of damage is so elevated that we were not prepared as a country, and I think no country is ever prepared for this magnitude of disaster. No, and of course, any support from other organizations and the partner organizations, international and local organizations from Project Hope is going to be a great support for us and for all of the communities. Yeah.
Well, Cesar Jimenez, I appreciate your time, and I'm sorry we're talking under these circumstances. Thank you.
Thanks to you. Thanks to you.
I want to get some perspective now from Lucy Jones, who's a renowned seismologist, founder of the Dr. Lucy Jones Center for Science and Society. She developed the methodology used for earthquake advisories in the state of California. Dr. Jones, how unusual is it for two earthquakes to hit the same area in quick succession like this?
It's actually relatively common. An earthquake happens because you start moving on a fault, and how far it keeps on going determines how big it is. So in this situation, it started moving, stalled for a few seconds, and then kept on. So it's being called two separate earthquakes. If there'd been a little less time between them, it would have just been one long earthquake. And as you heard, that's mostly what it felt like to the people who experienced it.
And how long will aftershocks be a threat?
For years, these really big earthquakes, it goes on for a long time. It dies off quickly. It's one over time. So however many earthquakes are on the first day, on the 10th day, you will have 1/10 as many. But there are a lot of going on right now, and you get out into that long tail, and it can keep on going. Large late aftershocks are very psychologically distressing and unfortunately very common.
And is there something unique about Venezuela's position on the fault lines that would have contributed to the strength of these quakes?
Well, it's a plate boundary. Those are the places that have the biggest earthquakes most often. It's very much like the San Andreas Fault in Southern California. It's a transform fault moving sideways, and it's they move at about the same speed. The length of the fault determines the size of the earthquake. So it's what you expect at a plate boundary every couple of 100 years. And to human time, that seems very long apart. To geologists, that's very rapid.
And obviously at this stage, I mean, we still don't maybe have a complete picture of the impact of this, the damage it's caused in the hardest hit areas.
Caracas is not on top of the fault. It started to the west. The rupture did move towards Caracas, and that tends to focus energy, but it's beyond the eastern edge of the fault. So to the west of it, there are other communities that receive stronger shaking than Caracas did.
There were obviously a number of challenges already facing Venezuela's infrastructure, healthcare system before this. What do you see as the biggest challenges to recovery moving forward?
There are so many. I mean, earthquakes, all disasters break a system where it's already weak. So the problems that Venezuela was already having with its economy, with the distribution of healthcare, all of those are just going to become much, much worse. The one thing they can do, if the international community comes together and gets aid in quickly, that helps a lot, because you want to get the economy moving again. We see it as this immediate disaster, but the big earthquakes, the big disasters go on, they disrupt economies for years, for decades. And the faster we can get them back, the less the long-term impact will be.
Lucy Jones, I really appreciate your time tonight. Thank you.